Good afternoon and hello to all. Today I'll be taking the new topic, that is your Apex language. So, along with the introduction to Apex, I will also be teaching you the properties of Apex. So, firstly, what is an Apex? Apex is very much similar to the Java programming languages as it is following the object oriented programming language concepts, and it is easier for the developers to execute the flow. And and whenever I'm using the transaction control statements, so in we can easily use this Apex language there. Apex language is totally based on the Salesforce servers, and you can access multiple APIs with it. So the syntax of Apex language is very much similar to Java, and you must have seen the stored procedures in SQL, the Oracle. So all these stored procedures are also similar to Java. Now, when I'm talking about Apex, Apex is more beneficial for the developers because it is allowing us to use the business logic, and multiple events are happening with the business logic, like the button click event, the trigger event, and the submit event. All these events, if you have studied the visual programming, then you must have seen that there are certain events that are happening. That is, a button click is also an event. So with the help of this Apex language, we can perform multiple events that are used for business logic development. So we are also updating the records, and we are using the Visual Force pages. So I'll be telling what is Visual Force in the next few slides. Then when I'm talking about the Apex, so the Apex code is working with the Salesforce technology. So Salesforce technology is also based on the, as you already know, it is based on the CRM technology and the cloud technology. So all the Apex code are initiated by the web service request. There are certain codes that cannot that are initiated by other than the web service request, and but most of the codes of Apex are generated by the or initiated by the web service. And then from here we can generate triggers also on the objects. And next, when I'm talking about the Apex, so there are certain properties or the features of Apex. So one of the features of Apex code is a multi-tenant environment that I'll be discussing. So here Apex is one of the first multi-tenant language, and here the programming languages are based and analyzed on the basis of the user request. So the developers are more interested in this because in the Salesforce it is based on the CRM based technology. So the developers develop the Apex code according to the CRM based technology, so that they are more interested in developing the business applications. So the developers can easily use this Apex language to define the on demand applications. Now we have multiple updation, customization, multiple options are available with the Salesforce. So we have the user interface in the Salesforce that is used to define the new fields, the new objects, different workflows, and the approval processes. Here the developers are also using the SOAP API. The SOAP API are the Simple Object Access Protocol. These are the very secure way to build the API, and the major work, how it works, it is just working by encoding the data in the XML format. So here the SOAP API are very much helpful to perform the data manipulation. So all the data manipulation activities are done with the help of SOAP API. That is the delete, update, insert. So these are done with the help of the client side programs. Now when I'm talking about the client side programs, these programs are written in JavaScript, Java, or any other programming languages or .NET that are most frequently used nowadays. So when these type of client side programming is done, so the organization are having more flexibility when performing the different customizations related to the data that is available to us. Now, because we have the multiple controlling logic. So, when talking about multiple controlling long language, so client side, uh, these type of languages cannot be supported on the Salesforce services servers. So, what happens? They are restricted by the performance cost, making multiple round trips to the Salesforce site. So, with the help of this, you are developing the Salesforce site with in a more secure and the robust environment. So, there is a complexity of developing or hosting a server code in the client side programs. So, for this, see, when you are adding the Apex, so many events are happening. Like when a is clicked, delete button is clicked, when there is any customization is happening on the uh, button tool. Now when you are using the Visual Force extension, then certain customizations are developed. So here also you can use the Apex language. So multiple events are interrelated with this Apex language. Now moving on to the properties of your Apex. The first property, very first property of this Apex is integrated. So the major work of an Apex is on developing the Lightning platform. So when I'm talking about the Lightning platform, so this helps us in using the Apex when I'm using the DML language. You must have studied in your database that DML languages are the data manipulation languages which use insert, update, and delete commands. And these commands are already built in the DML exception handling with the help of this Lightning platforms. We have, in case of database, the Salesforce technology uses the Salesforce Object Query Language. That's this SOQL. And also in this accordance with this, we have another Salesforce Search Language. That is Salesforce Object Search Language, SOSL. So all the queries that are written in the Salesforce platform with the help of Apex includes these SOQL and SOSL queries that are helping to be executed with the list of S object records. Now, the looping that happens, so multiple records can be accessed at a time. You are then we have the different locking syntax, which is helping us to prevent record update conflicts. Then we can also have the public APIs that can be customized, and we can call those custom public API and build the Apex method, because Lightning customize Lightning platform is customized, and we can use the different Apex methods. Now warnings and errors are also generated whenever a user is trying to change the object, the value of the object. It is trying to delete or it is trying to modify any object or field, then also the warning and the errors are generated. Then it is easy to use. Why it is easy to use? Because it is supporting all the object oriented features. So, and it is using the looping statement just like Java. The all the Java syntaxes are similar to the Apex syntaxes. The variable declaration, the expression syntax, the different block and conditional statement, the loop statements, the array creation, deletion, all these things are very much similar to Java programming languages. Now, when Apex is introducing the new elements, it is using syntax and semantics, and it is using the Lightning platform for this, because the Lightning platform is providing us the multi-tenant platform for the Apex. So it is very much easier to understand the code and to write the code in the Lightning platform. Now it is the Apex language is a data focused language, because multiple queries and multiple DMN statements are combined into a single unit of work when we are talking about the Salesforce servers. So the developers are using these database stored procedures for grouping those multiple transactions, and these are grouped onto the database server. And other likewise, when I'm using the SQL or any other languages, the Apex is not supporting the rendering elements. The render elements are just a way to break out renders in the component parts, such as diffuse colors, reflection, shadows, matters, etc. All these things. So here the Apex is not supporting the rendering elements. Then I have then the Apex is also rigorous, because these are strongly typed languages. So before accessing any of the schema objects, there is a reference to that particular object or a field name. So whenever there is a compile time error, so we can easily access it. So if the references are not provided in a proper way, we will always get a compile time error. So in the Apex language uses all the, it stores, and it stores the custom field, the objects, and the different dependencies that are available for that particular object in a metadata. Metadata is used to inform, to store all these information that cannot be deleted by any of the Apex code. Now, the Apex language is also a hosted language, means it is an interpreted language, it is executed and it is controlled totally by the Lightning platform. Now, what I was saying, the multi-tenant affair. So, when I'm talking about the different languages that are supporting the Lightning platform, Apex is executing in a multi-tenant environment. So, what is this multi-tenant environment? See, the runtime engine of this particular Apex is closely designed in such a way that it can go against any runaway code. It can provide us with the prevention of the sovereign shared resources monopolization. So what does this mean? That the shared resources cannot be have a similar owner. Nobody can take the ownership of that shared resources. So any code that is uh, inside these multi-tenant environment, so we can easily get the, if there is get the code that is violating the use of the Salesforce, that is violating the multi-tenant environment. So any code that violates the limits also will be given with the help of the error messages. Now we have easy to test. Apex is easy to test. So the Apex is providing us the built-in support for any unit test creation and execution. Firstly, the test object is created. So the test results are there, which is telling us that how much code or how much data is being covered and which part of your code is more efficiently working. Then the Salesforce is also ensuring that the custom Apex code that you have created are working inside the Salesforce environment, and it is not violating the any of the rules of the Apex. And firstly, executing any code, Apex code on the platform, uh, the unit tests are performed earlier before executing the Apex code, because we have multiple upgrades in the platform. Then we have different versions of the Apex, that is versioned. So when you are writing down the Apex code, you can save those Apex code in different versions of the API language. Now, this helps us to maintain the behavior, and the Apex has multiple editions, multiple versions. They are the performance edition, the unlimited edition, the developer edition, the enterprise edition, and the database.com are used to give the different versions of the Apex language. Then we have the way that this is showing us the way how the programming languages are working, and this is very much similar to the other programming language. So the elements in the Apex are, first is your variable declaration, and then after that you are using your SOQL, that is your Salesforce object query language. Then the query is generated in SOQL. Then we have the control structure, whether you want to create a new object, and then the new object is being a test object, because as I told you that the test object, the unit testing is performed before assessing any of the Apex code. Then you are creating the array list. Then after that, the DML operation is also performed. So this is the proper structure that a Apex code follows. Now we have different version settings. So when talking about the user interface, you can have different versions of the API that is used with the Salesforce, that helps us to save the Apex class or to save the Apex trigger. Now, this setting of the Apex will not only tell the version of the API that is used along with the SOAP, but also the version of Apex. So once you have saved any of the Apex code in any of the version, you can also change the versions after saving that particular code. Now every class or a trigger name should be a different name, should be a unique name. It should not be containing the same value as the other names object that are available in the Apex. So now here what you cannot do with the help of this version settings, you cannot save the same class or trigger against the different in the different versions of the Apex. So you have to give different name, or different class name should be created for every versions. Now you can also use the version settings so that you can easily associate any of the class, or you can trigger with the versions that is available for the particular managed package that is installed, pre-installed in your organization from App Exchange. So this version of the managed package will be used by the class or the trigger, and if any of the later versions are installed in the managed package, then you need to manually update the version settings. So when you want to add any installed managed package to the setting list, you just need to select a package from the list of available packages, and from there the list will be displayed, and you have so many number of installed managed package that is not already associated with the class or trigger. So you can just click on it and you can add those managed packages. Now there, how can we provide the name of the variables, how do we call the methods, and how do we arrange them in the classes. So when talking about the Apex language, the Apex language does not use any of the reserved keywords. Whenever I'm performing any naming of the variables or methods or class, so we have Apex that are part of the Lightning platform. So we have certain list, test, or account, and we also have the reserved keywords, but that reserved keywords will not be used when naming any variables. So how do we use variables and expressions? So because Apex is a very strongly typed language, so you need to declare the data type of the variable where you want to refer it. Then you have different data types: integer data type, the data type boolean, and then many other data types such as list, maps, objects, and S objects. So variables are declared with the name and then along with the data type. Similarly to the way we used in the programming languages, different programming languages. So this is the syntax, that is, firstly the data type is mentioned, then variable name is mentioned, then value is being provided in that variable. So see, the difference here is that we are using the square brackets for saving any value if there is for a variable name. So this is the variable declaration in Apex. Now if I have the data type with the integer and the name count and the value is equals to 0. So next we are declaring the data type of decimal with the name total. Here I have not assigned any value to it. Now there is another way to develop an there is another way to develop this variable by forming an object, creating an object. So I'm creating an object that is this is an Salesforce object, the S object. So the my ACCT object is being created. Then we have the different primitive data types arguments also in the Apex. So we can have the integer or the string, and that will be passed into methods with the help of certain values. Means any if any changes are provided into the arguments, then that changes will be limited to the, because the arguments are declared inside the methods. So the scope will also be limited to that particular method in which it is created. So whenever any changes are there, so the method returns the changes to the arguments that are lost. Then we have non-primitive data types also. So in the non-primitive data type arguments that are S objects, these are also passed into the methods where we are creating a reference for it. So when the method is returning, the passed in arguments are referencing the same object as before the method call, because we as I told you in the previous slide that we are maintaining the reference. So any if any error occurs, so we can easily find the error messages and correct it. So whenever we are talking about the method, so the reference can't be changed, so from one point to another object, but the values of that particular object fields can be changed. So the reference is already stored in the metadata, so that cannot be changed. Now we have different looping statements, so that can be used with the help of Apex. So what is what is a statement in Apex? It is a group of coded instruction that is used to perform any of the event or any of the actions. So when in Apex, the statements always end with a semicolon, and it can be of different types. Firstly is your assignment. When you are providing any value or assigning any value to a variable. Then we have conditional loops also, if else loops, conditional loop. Then we have different other loops also that are in the statements, that is do while loop, the while loop and the for loop. Then after that we can also perform the locking of the statements. We do not want to share any of the contents of the statement, so we are providing the locking. Then we are accessing the query with the help of SOQL. So we are using the data manipulation language. Then after that we are focusing on the transaction control, and then the methods are invoked because all the arguments are saved inside the method. Then if any error messages are occurring, any error and the system fails, then we are also using the exception handling for this purpose. Now see here, when I have to arrange a block series of statement. So the series of statements are the grouping of certain other statements. So all these grouping are provided inside the curly braces. So, and this will be treated as a single statement. If true, system.debug1, system.debug2, else. If these two values are not true, then we are debugging the statement number 3 and the statement number 4. So if these are containing 4 different values. Now if in case, in a certain case where it is containing only one statement, so we are not using any curly braces there. We are simply writing system.debug1 else system.debug2 if any of the condition true is hold. Now we have different collections. If you have studied about the uh, visual programming techniques, the .NET technology, the .NET also uses the collections in the programming language associated with it, that is your C sharp. So here in Apex also we are using collections. So the collections which are developed in the Apex are the list, that is also the arrays, the maps and the set. So when I'm talking about a list type of collection, so the list type of collection will have multiple elements organized in a one form in one collection, that as the integers, strings, objects or any other collections are also organized. So it is forming a list. So whenever you are using a list, these elements will be called at a time and the sequence should be followed strictly. So in this you can also have duplicate elements in a list. So because the list is created in similar way as creating a new object and assigning the values in the form of arrays. So the first indexion, the where this index starts should always be 0. Now when you have to create a list, you have to use a new keyword and then you have to use the list keyword. Then you have to follow the brackets, the less than equal to sign as treated as the bracket characters, and then the syntax for creating a new list. First is your list and then you need to mention list and then the data type for that list should be provided, then the list name and then new list and then the data type semicolon, then the square brackets are closed and then the new list. Firstly, the new list data type is defined and then after that the values are saved in those lists. Now this example will create a list of integer and also assign the variable that is created my list. Now because Apex is a strongly typed language, you need to declare the data type first for the list that was created, that is the my list, and it is containing the list of the integers. So list integer, then my list, that is the name of the list that was created, and then we are creating so that we can add new elements here. So an object is created, new list integer. Now the set of collection will always be unique and it can have any unordered list of elements. You can also have the primitive data types. The, the primitive data types are the string, integer, date, and many other like decimal. These are your primitive data types. It can also contain the complex data types that are the non-primitive data types that as objects. Now, when you have to create a set for these lists that was created, so you have to use, again you have to use a new keyword, then you have to use the set keyword, and set keyword is used along with the primitive data type. Then the syntax is mentioned here, that set, then data type, then set name, whatever name you want to provide for that particular set, then new set data type, and then after that we are assigning the values to the data type that was the set data type that was created. Now if we want to create a set of strings, so for that the values are passed, and these are passed using the curly brackets. Then we have set string, then my string, because I'm setting the string type of set. So here the data type that is provided is the string in the brackets, and then the name of that particular set name, that is my string, and then new, then again the set, and then assigning the values to that particular string. We have the syntax for creating a map. So the map will be created firstly mentioning that we are creating a map keyword will be there, then the data type for the particular key, and then the value associated with that particular key. So the data type of that value is also given, then the name of the map, and then new map, key data type is mentioned, the value data type is mentioned. Then we have the key value. If we have multiple keys, so the key value 1 will be associated with the value 1 of the value. Similarly, key 2 value, then key 3, then key 4, then kn. So n number of keys can be used with the help of this map collection. So this syntax will create a map, and the data type of this map is an integer for the key, and the string for the value that is associated with the key. So how can we map the values along with the key? So these values are passed in the curly braces. So when the map is created, we are simply writing map, and then the data type, that is integer, and then the value data type, that is string, the name of the map, my map, and then new map, again the integer value for the key and the string value for the value, and then the values are stored in it. Then we are using different branchings. So for branching we are using the if statement, so that will tell whether true false tests are enabled on a different things on your on that you the on the condition that you have provided. So the basic condition for this branching is if condition, then do this if the condition is true, else second condition, and then curly braces close. So we are also using the different loops here. The if statement is enabling any of the application to do any of the event or conduct any of the event or anything based on a particular condition. Now loop will tell the application when to do the thing repeatedly based on a particular condition. So the loops that are supported by the Apex are do while, and for loop. As we know, the do while loop always check the condition when the codes are already executed, and the while loop check the condition beforehand, and then if the condition is fulfilling, then only the code executes. Then a for loop is used to control the condition used within the loop. So the Apex is always supporting the traditional for loop where you are setting the conditions, and now for loops you are using the list and the SOQL queries as a part of your conditions. So when should I use Apex? So the pre-built applications that are providing the CRM functionality, the Salesforce also provide the ability to customize the applications that were already pre-built. And why we customize is because there are certain changes in the organization and you want that feature to fit your organization. So your organization can also implement multiple complex business processes. So that processes are normally not supported by the existing functionality. So for that case, Lightning platform is providing us the various complex functionalities because we have advanced administrators and we can develop different custom functionality for the organization. So if you want to use an Apex, then what all things you can do with the Apex language? You can already create a web service, you can create email services, you can perform complex validation over multiple objects, you can also create complex business processes that was not previously supported by the workflow. You can also create custom transactional logic. You can also in transactional logic you can have multiple records, not only a single record or a single object. So the whole thing, the logic is applied over all the transactional values. Then you are also attaching a custom logic for any of the operation that is used to save a record, that when it occurs the operation is executed. So we are not focusing whether it is originating from the user interface or whether it is originating from a visual force page or from the SOAP API. We are just saving a record. Now we have different lightning components. So the lightning components are developed to customize the lightning experience. We can have the Salesforce mobile app also. We can also build our own standalone apps also. So it also use the components, different components to speed up the development. And then you can, the major API version which was used was the 45.0, that was built in the with the lightning component, that is using different programming models. The first programming model was the Lightning Web Components model, and the next one is the Aura Components model. The Lightning Web Components are the basic custom HTML elements. You will be used with the used to develop it with the help of HTML and the JavaScript. Then Lightning Web Components and the Aura Components are interrelated. They will coexist and they will be interoperable on a particular page. You can easily configure Lightning Web Components and also the Aura components to work in the Lightning App Builder, and we have different builders, the Lightning App Builders and the Experience Builders. Now here the administrators can is and the different users, they are unaware of the programming model that was used to develop the components, whether we have used the Lightning Web Component, whether we have used the Aura components. The admins and the users are totally unaware of it, so they are simply using the Lightning components. Now we have the visual force. So the visual force is containing the tag like a markup language, the tag based markup language. Now this is helping us, the developers, to easily build the new applications and easily customize the user interface that is being supported by the Salesforce. Now, with the help of this visual force, you can easily build the wizards. You can also have multi-step process. You can create the custom flow control also through the application that is customized or the uncustomized application. You can also tell the navigation patterns, and you can also specify the data rules for its efficient application interaction. Now we have the SOAP API. We use the SOAP API if we want to add multiple functionalities for a composite application. Then here in SOAP API, we can access any type of record at a time, and only one type of record will be selected or executed at a time. And here the transactional control is not required. And why? Because the transactional control contains many record at a time. So here the SOAP API is accessing only one record, one type of a record at a time. Then when talking about the Apex working, so the Apex is entirely based on the Lightning platform. So the developers that are creating the Apex code are writing those code on the platform, and the end users are using the trigger for execution of the Apex code that are provided with the user interface. Now whenever a developer is writing any code in the Apex language and saving the code any in the Apex language to the platform, the first thing that happens is the server first compiles the code, and then it compiles the code into the set of instructions that can be easily understood by the Apex runtime compiler. After it is, runtime interpreter. So after it is executed with the help of Apex runtime interpreter, then these instructions are saved as the metadata value. So whenever an end user is triggering the execution of the Apex, so by clicking a button event or accessing the visual force page, the platform application server retrieves the compiled instructions from the metadata, and then it is sending them to the runtime interpreter before giving any result or generating any result. So the end user does not provide that does not perceive that there is a difference in execution from different standard platform requests. So here Apex is combined. See, when talking about the end user, the request is given to through the internet to the application server. Then application server is using the Apex runtime interpreter. Then the Apex class is accessed from the data storage, and the result is given to the end user. With the help of the developer user, we have uncompiled, or we have different Apex class, or we have different Apex triggers. And then from here we are using the Apex compiler, and the compiled Apex code is being generated with the help of the data storage, and the other compiler errors are being given to the developer user. Now we have to develop a code in the cloud. So the Apex programming language is always running on the cloud. So the cloud is treated as the multi-tenant platform. So the different access of the data and the different manipulation of the data on the platform is helping us to add different business logic that can be customized according to the system events, while it is providing us with the major benefits for business process on the platform. It is not a general purpose programming language, as we already you know that it is executed with the help of the Salesforce only. So the Apex language cannot be used when we are using the render elements. So the render elements cannot be used in the user interface if only the error messages are generated with the help of render elements. Now we cannot change the standard functionality because that is already saved in the metadata. So any additional functionalities cannot be easily added with the help of um, adding when talking about the changes developing a code in the cloud. Then we are creating a temporary file. Then we have multiple threads that are organized in a one form. And then all the Apex requests are returning a collection that can contain the records till 50,000. Now your code will always work on a single record. You have the multiple programming patterns that take multiple processing at a time. Then we have Apex development process. So whenever developing an Apex code, you are having a developer edition account. So without developer edition account, you cannot create any Apex development process. Then you write and you then test your code, and then after testing your code, you deploy your code. Then these are the following process for deploying any Apex code. Firstly, I'm obtaining a developer edition account. Then I'm learning about the Apex. Then I'm writing down the Apex code. And you are also at the time of writing the code, you are also checking the writing test because the test codes are also generated along with the Apex code. Now you can deploy your Apex. There is a sandbox organization that is used with the Salesforce technology, and you can do the final unit test. The sandbox organization is a Apex functionality that is used to perform the unit tests. Now, after this, you can easily deploy your Apex code and you can save it in your Salesforce production organization. Then when you have to create a developer or sandbox org, so you can easily run an Apex in a production org, in a developer org, or a sandbox org. So depending on the code that needs to be generated. So whenever I have to develop an Apex code in a developer org or a sandbox org, but I don't want to create it in the production org. So sorry, in production org, the org that is used with the help of the live users, the live users are accessing your data. So every time we do not have the live users, so developer is used within a developer edition account. Then I have the sandbox org. So this sandbox org is created on the production org, that is always the copy of the production org. Then the Apex code cannot be developed in the Salesforce production org. The live users are only accessing the already created code. So if you can develop, if anything is developed in the Salesforce production org, then it can destabilize or corrupt the data or the application that needs to be created. So all the development work is done in the developer account, development org, or the sandbox org edition. These are the editions of the Salesforce. Now we have you need to join this developer.salesforce.com sign up to check how to create a developer edition account and how to get a free developer, have to become a free developer. Now in edition org, so in edition org, you need to have a professional enterprise unlimited or performance edition org versions, so that you can easily create an apex code in the sandbox. Then to create a sandbox org, so how do we create a sandbox org? This from you can check from the setup, you can enter sandboxes and you can click on the quick find box, and then you can select multiple sandboxes that are available in the pre-installed system of the Salesforce, and then you can create a new sandbox. Then you can provide a name for that particular sandbox. You can also provide the description, that is optional. Then the major purpose of sandbox is to reflect the question answer. It can have few characters because the Salesforce always appends the name and usernames on the user records in the environment, and then we are selecting the type of the sandbox. If I'm not able to find, or you are not able to find any sandbox option, you need to check for the license. You need to contact the Salesforce and you can get the sandboxes for your organization. Now, if you are reducing the number of sandboxes, then you need to arrange or match up those sandboxes to the number of sandboxes you have purchased. So now if you have two full sandboxes, but if you have purchased only one, you cannot create a full sandbox. So you need to access both the sandboxes to use the developer pro or the developer sandbox. Then you need to select the data to include in your partial copy, because you don't have the access to both the sandboxes, so you will get a partial copy. And if you have the access to both the sandboxes, then you will get the full sandbox copy. The for arranging a partial copy sandbox, we are just clicking on the next, and then we are selecting the template for which you want to create or specify your data in the sandbox. Now, if you initially, if you haven't created a template, then you can see the options in the partial copy sandbox, that is create or edit the sandbox templated. So here you can easily create or edit the sandbox. Then for if I'm having a full sandbox, then I'm clicking on the next, and then I will decide that how much data I want to include or what type of data I want to include. So we need to provide the template also for the full sandbox, and then you can select the existing sandbox template. For this, we can also create or edit sandbox templates. If I want to include all the data in the full sandbox, so we need to specify which type of field, what type of field data, what is the tracking history of the data that is needed to be included in the tracking field, and then whether I need the chatter data also. So the chatter data is including the news feeds, the messages, the topics, then multiple components that are affecting your sandbox copy. Now this will decrease the amount of data you can copy, and significantly it will help to speed up the sandbox copy time. Now if we want to run the scripts after every creation of the sandbox, then we need to refresh it and then specify the Apex class you have already created, and then that already created Apex class will be accessible from the sandbox post copy interface. And then after sandbox access, you can easily select the user group to select a public user group that contains the users that require access to the sandbox, or you can also select the all active users and then create the click. Now I want to learn Apex. For learning Apex, you need to have a developer account so that you can access all the resources that are available for developing the Apex code. Then you need to register yourself in your Trailhead, Apex Trailhead content, and then beginning and the immediate programmers can easily access the Apex code. Then several Trailhead modules are provided on the learning Apex tutorials. You can also use that modules to develop the fundamentals of the Apex. You can also use the Lightning platform. You can use the Apex to add the different business logic that are customized through the triggers to the test to the asynchronous Apex to the REST objects. And then we can also use the web services and Visual Force controllers also. We can have quick start Apex, we can have Apex basics and database, we can learn about Apex triggers, we can learn about Apex integration services, then we have Apex testing, and then we have the asynchronous Apex. So when I have to develop a page, so Salesforce developer Apex page is being created. So only the beginning and the advanced programmers can use it. So the Apex page is available on the Salesforce developers account, and then you can easily link to the resources available in the Salesforce platform, and then the Apex programming languages are articles are included. Then the resources are providing a quick introduction to Apex, and it was including best practices for Apex development. Then I have the Lightning platform code samples and SDKs. So, sorry. Here also beginning and advanced programmers can access it. Then the open source code and the samples and the SDKs, the reference code are also provided, and they can be easily found in the code and samples and SDKs column in the Lightning platform. Then you have the different meaningful examples of the Apex code that are using the different practices and Apex recipes. Then I have the development life cycle. So the life cycle for the Lightning platform. So the enterprise version or the enterprise development version are used on the Lightning platform. Here the architects and the advanced programmers are only using this development life cycle. Okay? They can be uh, helpful for developing the Lightning platform. So the application lifestyle as well as the development models are available. The modules are available on the Trailhead, and they will help you to use the application lifecycle and the development models on the Lightning platform. Then we have the different training courses for the Apex. From Salesforce Trailhead Academy, you can easily get the training classes. Then you can validate your skill with the help of Salesforce credentials. Then if you are a beginner, the beginner programmer, then you can easily access the introduction of the Apex. Then what are the conventions, what are the core concepts, the start tutorials, the different classes, the objects, the interfaces, then the testing Apex, then the limits and the governors. Then you can also have the trigger. If you have learned these things as a beginner, then you can move on to the advanced programmers where you can use the trigger and bulk request best practices. You can have the advanced Apex programming. Then you have the Apex describe information. Then you have asynchronous execution. Then you can have batch Apex and also Apex schedulers. Now when I am writing Apex using development environment. So now when I have to write the different applications, so so while writing Apex using development environments, there are different development environments that are used to develop the Apex code. So for developing the Apex code, we have the developer console and we have the Salesforce extension for the Visual Studio also. And this will help us to write and test and debug all the Apex code. So the code editor is in the user interface, and that is enabling us to write a code, and it is not uh, helping us for debugging. So firstly, the developer console is there. So the developer control is providing an integrated environment, and it is having the several tools that are helping us to create or debug any of the test applications, as well as the create or application in the Salesforce organization. So the developer console is helping us to perform certain tasks. It is helping us to write a code. It is helping us to compile a code. It is helping us for debugging and for testing. And you can also check the different performance, the efficiency of the working of the code. And then we have the different SOQL queries. Then I can also perform the color coding, and then the autocomplete options are there, which are helping us to change change the color scheme. And then also the code elements are provided, and the auto completion for class and method names are there. Then I have different Salesforce so Salesforce extension for Visual Studio Code. So in Visual Studio Code, there are multiple extension pack that are including the development tool, and you can the VS Code editor is there. These tools are provided along with the development organizations, and then the Apex, the Aura components, and the Visual Force component, the Lightning Force components, or are all things are included with the help of Visual Studio Code. We have different code editors in the Salesforce user interface. The Salesforce user interface, so all the classes and triggers are compiled, and when they are saved, so any of the arrays are easily flagged or easily executed. The errors are easily identified, and you can with the help of this You cannot save the code unless and until all the errors are removed and it is compiled without errors. So the Salesforce also use the interface that is providing the numbers, lines in the codes and the color coding also. Now for a trigger on an object, the object management settings are there. So you need to go onto the triggers and you can add a new trigger, and then you can also enter the code in the body and specify in the body text box from a class. And from a setup you can enter apex classes in the quick find box and then select apex classes, and then you can click new and then enter your code in the body text box. Then how can we deploy any apex to the sandbox organization? See, the sandbox organization is already creating a number of copies in the Salesforce, so you are using them for development, for deployment, for testing, for training. And here you are always maintaining the data integrity and its security. So all the information that are there, they are maintained in the production organization. Then the sandbox are always, because they are providing the secure data, so it is isolated from the production organization, so that the the operations that are being performed in the sandboxes is not affecting the production organization because it is supporting the live users. Now when I have to deploy any apex, so we are using the Salesforce extension of the Visual Studio, and we can easily deploy the apex code. You can also use the deploy method API, and you can access the developer organization to a sandbox organization. You have a API called run test. So this type of run test will execute all the tests, run all the tests, and declare a specific class and a list of classes and the namespace. Then I have to deploy. Then after that, all the unit tests are being verified, and the final step of deploying the apex is done to the production organization. You can also deploy any apex from a local project, so you have to use the Salesforce video code editor for that. Now when I have to add apex code to the app exchange app, so you need to include, always create an apex class or a trigger in app, and then you have to create the app exchange. So any apex that is included as a part of package should always contain 75% of the text coverage. So every time a trigger is there, so there should be a test coverage. So whenever you want to upload a package to the app exchange, all the tests are run to execute it is running without errors. So for this there is a syntax at the rate is test on install is true annotation. Then when the package is installed, in the installer organization, you need to check whether it is true or not. So if a test is being performed and start installed, then all the if it is true, then all the packages must pass the test and it is easier to install on the system. Then I have the Apex Quick Start. So the Quick Start is providing us the tutorial or the simplest way to how to create a class, how to generate a trigger, and how to deploy the values to the production organization. Then you can also have the developer edition that will tell you how to review an Apex program, how to review the trigger, how to review the unit text. The you the functionality will also help us to customize the object. Then for example, I have taken a custom object called book that is created in the first step. So the custom object is updated through a trigger. The the world sample requires the custom object. You can create these objects on your own. Now you can also download the objects. You can also create an Apex code for the unmanaged package and for the managed package also in the App Exchange that is provided with the Salesforce. Then you can create a custom object. Likewise, if I want to create a custom object named as book, and the field that is provided for that object is a price, so for that you have to be having a sandbox account, Salesforce account in the professional, enterprise, or performance or unlimited edition organization. On whatever version you want to create, you can easily create, or you can also have a developer org. Then you will log into your sandbox or the developer org, and from there you are moving on to the management settings for creating the custom objects and clicking on the new custom objects if you are using a Salesforce Classic. But if you are using a lightning experience, then you can write the syntax create is greater than custom object. Then you need to enter the book label, and then if you are providing a number list of books, then you need to also provide the plural label for it, and then save the value. This will create the first objects. And then you can also establish the relationship between the objects that are pre-created. Then you can select the number of data type and then click on the next, and then you are, because you have provided with one field that is price, so you need to enter the field label, and then you are entering 16 in the length text box. Then you are entering true in the decimal places text box, and then you are clicking next, and then you are accepting the default values with the field level security, and then you are saving the Apex code. Then you are adding an Apex class. You add a Apex class that is containing a method that is updating the book price. So this, all the methods that are being created are always called by the trigger. Then from the setup, you are entering the Apex classes, and move you were accessing these with the help of the quick find box, and then Apex classes will be selected from the list of the Apex classes, and then you are clicking on the new, and in the last, that is the class editor, you are entering the class definition, that is public class my hello world. This is very much similar to Java. So in the previous code you can add one more method. So the Apex code are always generated in the types of classes. So the class is by default here declared as public. So you can easily access those classes from the different Apex classes and triggers. Now you want to add the method definition. You are providing the public static void apply discount. So you are telling about the book opening, the class opening and the closing. So I'm providing all the details of the book. See, books, and then how many number of books are there, then the price of that particular book, and then this method, that is the method I've created, that is the apply discount. So this method is a public method, and this is also a static method. So if I am creating any static method, so it cannot be instantiated. So you just have to call the name of that class and then a dot and the name of the method. You can easily access this apply discount method. Then I have taken one parameter, that is a list of records, which is assigned to the variable books. See, the underscore C is the object name. Book underscore C is the object name. That I have created a customized object. Then in the next code, I am noticing that after the field price C. So when you have created a custom field, that is the price. So the standard fields are also provided by default, and you can easily access with the help of dot notation without writing down the underscore C. For example, the name of the particular book will never end with the underscore C. The statement that is telling b dot price underscore c equals to 09, that is taking the old value of b price and then it is multiplying it with the help with the 0.9. So it means that the new price of the book is discounted price, and then it is storing the new value into the price underscore c field. So the into operator is telling us the shortcut. So, and it is telling us the multiplication between the old value to the new value. You can also write this as b dot price underscore c is equals to b dot price underscore c into 0.9. But in short, I have mentioned this thing, so it will automatically take the old value and it will multiply it with 0.9. Then I'm saving the new class that I have created. This will show me the full class definition. Public class my hello world, and then the method that I have created, apply discount, and then the number of books, and then the price of that books, the discounted price, and you can use this code for the multiple number of books. When I have to apply and add a apex trigger, so the custom object that I have created and then the method that I have created, so you need to generate the trigger for that particular custom objects. So um, in the Salesforce account, I can only access all the versions, that is professional, enterprise, performance, unlimited, anything. So for this, I have to create a new trigger. So the trigger helps us to execute any of the code that is being modified or that is being created from a very lightning platform. So when a trigger is created, it is helping us to run with the help of certain variables, and it is providing us the access to the multiple records. Then the triggers are always executing in a bulk. Then from the object management settings, you can go to the books and then go to the triggers and then click on the new. So you can easily open a trigger editor, you can delete the default template, you can enter the new definition of the particular trigger. So for creating a trigger, you need to write down the keyword trigger, hello world trigger on the object that you have created. The trigger is needs to be applied on that. So before inserting, and then books, a new trigger dot new, because you are applying the trigger on the book underscore c, and then the method for which it is created, you are mentioning the books as an argument inside that method. In the first line of code, it is specifying the object on which the trigger needs to be created, and then the event is associated that before insertion, the event before insert is telling us that the trigger is created for the object before insert, and then the next line will tell the contents of the trigger, that is trigger.new, and then all the triggers are being fired from the records that are accessing those triggers. The last line is having all the code that is updated in the price list of the books that was inserted. Then I can add a text class also. In this, you can easily text a class, and you can use a one test method. You can also run and test and verify the code also. Then the exercises and the validation provides the greater execution of the trigger and the class. Then you can easily access the hello world trigger apex trigger. Why testing is important? Because you are providing an application exchange package, so it should hold true for all the application exchange packages. So the unit test, as I already told, must contain 75% of the code, and these code should not contain any compiler error. You need to deploy the code, then you need to call the system.debug, and the system.debug will never be counted as a apex code coverage. Then when 75% of apex code is covered, then you can easily use your application and tell the positive and the negative cases and the bulk records as well as the single records. So every trigger must be having a test coverage, and every trigger and classes are compiled easily and efficiently and successfully. Now from setup, we can easily enter apex classes in the quick find box, and then we can select the apex classes and then click new. Now if I am opening a class editor, you need to check the test definition for this and then save it. So is at the rate is test, then the object that I have created, that is create because I am testing the class now, so it will be a private class, hello world test class. Then at the rate is test static void validate hello world, because I have performed the validation, I have to check the test, I have to run the test. So here I have provided with the object book underscore C, and then the event is behind, the name of the book is behind the cloud, the price is 100, and then I want to debug the value of the book before inserting a new book. Then the price is being added, and then I will insert a new book. Then I can retrieve the new book values after the trigger is being fired. Then from there I can select the book price, where I can give the ID also for that particular book, and I can also use the price after trigger fired. Now I am performing the test correctly, then updating the price system dot equals. So here it will get the total number of price of the book, that is 90. Now this class at the rate is test is used to check the working of the trigger and the working of the code. So the separate class is used for testing the classes, that is at the rate is test. Now the validation is used inside the at the rate is test annotation. This means that if changes are made to the database, they are roll back when execution completes. Now the is test is equivalent to the test method. Then the test method creates a book and insert it into the database temporarily. This is the code that is used to debug the statement. Simply, I have created the new book, the name of the book is this, the price of the book is this, and then price before inserting the new book. Then after that, I am inserting the book. After the book is inserted, the code is retrieving the new inserted book. So every time a new book is being inserted, I have to retrieve the previously available books. So the trigger is fired after the debugging has been done and the price of the previous book was noted down, and it is updating the new price by 10%. So every time to run this code, I have to check the code information. I have to switch to the developer console, and to the developer console, I click on the test and then go to the new run. Then after that, all the test classes are selected, and because the test class which I have to perform the test, run the test on is hello world test class. So I'll be selecting that class and I will be adding all the methods that need to be in the test run. Then I click on the quick run and the test result will be displayed in the test tab. So the overall code will show you the coverage of the test class. Now if I want to open a log file, so I just need to click on the logs tab and double click on the recent log line or the list of the logs. So it will generate the number of log files that were easily or the previously accessed. So the execution log will include all the logging information of the trigger that was generated on the event and the call to the application discount method. Now I am deploying the different components to the production. In this, you can easily deploy the Apex code on the custom object you created, and then a Salesforce account in the Sandbox Performance Unlimited or the Enterprise Edition organization needs to be there. Then the deployment connection between the Sandbox and the production organization always allow us to provide the changes to the sets, and that should be received by the production organization. Then I can create and upload the change set using the user permission to create, edit or upload the outbound change set. Now this procedure will always be applicable to the sandbox and the production organization. This won't be available in the developer organization because the changes are only provided into the performance unlimited and the database.com edition. So if you have a developer edition account, you cannot provide any of the change sets. You can only use the deployment methods. So from here, how can we perform the change set? You are moving on to the step one, that is your outbound change sets are clicked on the quick find box. Then I will select the outbound change sheet. Then if a splash page is appearing, then we have to click on continue, and in the change set list we will get to click on the new. Then we will be entering a new name for the change set. That in the previous example I have taken hello world change set, and then you can provide a description, or you do, if you do not wish, you cannot provide the description. Then click on the save. Then you have the change set components and then you are adding it. After that, you are selecting the Apex class from the drop down list and then selecting the hello world and then hello world test class from the list, and then adding it to change set. Then after that, you are clicking, viewing and adding the dependency to the dependent components attached to that change set. Then I am selecting the top checkbox to select all the components. Then I'm clicking on the add to change the set. Then in the change set details section of the change set page, I am clicking on the upload. Then after that, the target organization is selected and click on the upload. After the change set has been uploaded successfully, you can easily deploy it with the help of the production organization. Then you can, after this deployment, you can logging into your production organization, and then from the setup you are entering the inbound change set in the quick find box, and then after that you are selecting the inbound change set, and then again if a splash page is appearing you have to click on the continue, and in the change sets you can have multiple awaiting deployment list. You can select any one of them and you can change your set's name, and then click on the deploy. That is all for today. Thank you.